fourth graders. For day one on lesson 8.4, we're talking about classifying triangles, but we're looking at their angles to classify them. So for this lesson, we're going to use what we already know about our angles: right angle, obtuse angle, and acute angle, and classify triangles looking at the angles. So first, triangles we know have three angles. Tri means three. So we can remember that a triangle always has three angles, three sides. So when we look at different types of triangles, we have a right triangle, which means that one of the angles is a right angle. And we can only have one angle in a triangle be a right angle. An obtuse triangle has one, and again, that's important that it's just one obtuse angle. A triangle can't have more than one obtuse angle. And then an acute triangle, all three angles are acute. So if we look at those three angles, those are all acute angles, or less than 90 degrees. So then when we look down at different angles and we're trying to classify the triangle based on their angles, we want to look at each angle individually. So first we'll start with this angle. And remember, when we name an angle, we write our angle symbol, and then we start with the three letters that are a part of that angle. So from Q to S to R. So the angle is QSR. This is a right angle. It is less than 90 degrees, or sorry, it is an acute angle. It's less than 90 degrees. So we would call that acute. If we look at angle Q, we would call it angle, let me erase. We would call this one SQR. And this angle is also less than 90 degrees, so it's acute. Okay. And then finally, we look at angle R, which is named angle QRS. And they give us this little box which tells us that it is a right angle. So then, using what we know about each of the different triangles, we're going to classify what kind of triangle this is. And knowing that it has one right angle, we're going to say that it is a right triangle. And then for our explanation, we'll put that it has one right angle. Then for the drawings below, I left the ones that my answer book gave because I think that they're really great. They give us a right triangle here with this one right angle. They give us an acute triangle, again with three acute angles. And then our obtuse is very clearly an obtuse triangle with a very obtuse angle here. Okay. For this page, we identify each of the triangles as we go. And I'm only going to do a few for you, and the rest of the answers are on our Google Classroom. But just to kind of walk you through how we classify each triangle and the steps that we need to take before we decide what kind of triangle it is. So for number 4, I look at each angle. This angle is less than 90 degrees, right? It is less, it's smaller than this, right? So is this one, and so is this one. So if there's 3 acute angles, I'm going to call it an acute triangle. And then the reason behind it is it has 3 acute angles. And I'm going to put this, otherwise I'll run out of space. 3 acute angles. Okay. For number 5, we look at each angle again individually. So we'll start here. That looks acute to me. Here, they tell us that it's a right angle with this little box, right? So we have one right angle and we have another acute angle. Really, we can stop when we see this box because we know it's a right triangle if we have that box. So we'll call it a right triangle. And then the reason, we'll say one right angle, okay? And then we're gonna skip down to 7. And we're gonna look at the angles on this one. So first we'll start here. I have an acute angle. That's a pretty small angle here. But then when I look at this angle, that one is larger than 90 degrees. It's larger than something like this. So I can stop there because I know when I have one obtuse angle, it is an obtuse triangle. So we'll call that one obtuse. And it has one obtuse angle. So in order for it to be a right triangle, it has to have one right angle, and that's where you can stop. In order for it to be an obtuse triangle, it has to have one obtuse angle. And if it doesn't have an obtuse angle or a right angle, we can call it an acute triangle, because then all the other angles must be acute. Then when we get down to the bottom here, we talk about how angles make triangles different from one another. So if we're looking at the measure of the angles, right, a 90-degree measure, something less than 90 degrees, or something larger than 90 degrees, we really, the difference in the angle size makes the difference in the triangle type. So for this answer down here, I would say something about the measure of the angle changes the name of the triangle. Angles change the name of the triangle. So if you have any questions, make sure you let me know, but just make sure that you remember an acute triangle has 3 acute angles. An obtuse triangle has 1 obtuse angle, and a right triangle has 1 right angle. I'll see you later.